This topic is almost always framed the wrong way. It's framed as a moral debate, a lifestyle identity, or a political signal. One side is supposed to be right, the other wrong. That framing creates a lot of noise and very little clarity. So in this episode, we're stripping that away and looking at the question through a physiological lens instead. Animal protein and plant protein are not interchangeable in the body. That doesn't mean one is good and the other bad. It means they behave differently, and those differences matter if your goal is muscle maintenance, strength, recovery, and long-term function. Protein is not a food group. Protein is a collection of amino acids. When you eat protein, your body breaks it down into amino acids, absorbs them, and then uses them to repair tissue, maintain muscle, make enzymes and hormones, and support immune function. So the relevant question is not where the protein came from ideologically. The relevant question is what actually reaches your bloodstream in usable form, and whether enough of the right amino acids show up consistently to support muscle. Animal proteins generally contain all essential amino acids in proportions that closely match human needs. They also tend to be highly digestible, meaning a large fraction of what you eat is absorbed and available for use. Plant proteins are more variable. Some plant proteins are strong. Others are lower in one or more essential amino acids. Digestibility can also be lower due to fiber, plant cell walls, or other compounds that slow or reduce absorption. These differences are not theoretical. They show up in how muscle responds. Muscle protein synthesis depends on reaching certain amino acid thresholds. Below those thresholds, the signal to maintain or build muscle is weak. Once the threshold is crossed, the response becomes much stronger. Animal proteins often reach that threshold with smaller servings because they are dense in essential amino acids and highly digestible. Many plant proteins can reach the same threshold, but often require larger servings, more careful source selection, or higher total daily intake. This is where most people get confused. They hear that plant-based diets can provide enough protein, which is true. But they translate that into plant protein works the same automatically, which is often not true in practice. In real life, appetite, food volume, and convenience matter. Plant-forward diets are often high in fiber and volume. That can be a benefit for satiety, but it can also make it easy to feel full before you've eaten enough protein. People feel satisfied, assume they're covered, and don't realize they're consistently coming up short. Nothing bad happens immediately. The costs show up slowly. Slower recovery, declining strength, less resilience during illness or injury. Those changes are often blamed on age or stress, when the real issue is chronic underconsumption of usable protein. Animal proteins reduce the margin for error. They are protein-dense. They deliver essential amino acids efficiently. It's easier to hit adequate intake without planning every detail. Plant proteins increase the margin for error. They can absolutely work, but they usually require more intentional structure, higher total protein intake, protein-dense plant staples, better distribution across meals, and in many cases, supplementation. That is not a criticism. It's a constraint. Another point people miss is protein distribution. Most people eat protein unevenly across the day. Breakfast is often low protein, lunch is moderate, and dinner is the main protein meal. For muscle maintenance, that pattern can be suboptimal, especially as people age. With plant-based diets, this problem is often amplified because breakfast and lunch tend to be built around grains, fruit, or vegetables with relatively small amounts of protein. If meals never cross the amino acid threshold that stimulates muscle protein synthesis, total daily intake may look acceptable on paper while muscle slowly declines in practice. This is why protein quality discussions exist in the first place. Quality isn't about moral purity, it's about efficiency. How much usable protein do you get per gram? How easy is it to hit effective doses consistently? Processing is often misunderstood here. People assume that processed automatically means inferior, but processing can increase digestibility and protein density. Tofu, tempeh, soy milk, and protein powders exist because they make protein delivery easier, not because whole plants are inadequate. From a physiological standpoint, the body does not care whether amino acids came from a bean, a steak, or a shake. It cares whether enough amino acids show up often enough to meet demand. Over long time horizons, consistency matters more than ideology. Muscle loss does not happen because someone chose the wrong protein source on a given day. It happens because intake is insufficient over months and years. So the honest comparison looks like this. Animal protein is generally more efficient per gram and easier to use without planning. Plant protein can work extremely well, but it requires more deliberate structure to avoid chronic shortfalls. Neither approach is automatically superior. Both can fail. Both can succeed. The deciding factor is whether the diet reliably supplies enough usable protein to support strength, recovery, and function. If you prefer a plant-based approach, the solution is not denial. It's strategy. Use protein-dense plant foods, pay attention to distribution, and don't be afraid of tools that help you meet your needs. If you eat a mixed diet, the solution is not complacency. Many people eating animal products still underconsume protein because they assume normal meals are enough. The takeaway is simple. Protein adequacy matters more than protein ideology. Source affects how easy adequacy is to achieve. And muscle outcomes reflect what actually happens over time, not what a diet claims to represent. That's the honest comparison. This is protein truth.